Every VA claim, every single one, lives or dies on three things. Most veterans only bring two. That's why they lose. First off, first thing you have to have is a current diagnosis. If a licensed medical practitioner didn't say you have it, it doesn't exist in the VA's eyes. Just because you have the symptoms, that rarely wins a claim. Like I say, if it's not on paper, it doesn't exist. So you need to have a paper trail showing you have the condition. You need to be diagnosed with it. That's first, foremost. So step one is getting a diagnosis before you do anything else. And then step two, most of the time you want to have an in-service event, injury, exposure, something that's documented in your service treatment records, your STRs. If it didn't happen while on service, it's tough to establish a nexus. So something happened while in service that either caused or aggravated the condition. And this doesn't have to be you were blown up. It doesn't have to be some dramatic event. It could be noise exposure, chemical exposure, a fall, training injury, just something mundane like that. It just has to be traceable to your service. Your STRs, your MOS, your duty station, these are all traceable events. Next, you need a nexus. Now, the word nexus just means a connection between two things. So what you're looking for when you're dealing with the VBA is a connection between the diagnosis and the event. Connects it to service. That's all the nexus does. So if you've got it documented in your STRs, the VBA will see that. If you've got a current diagnosis, they'll see the thread between those two things and say, aha, that's a nexus. So that's how guys get their direct connections, okay? So you've got something documented in your service treatment records and you've got a current diagnosis. Current diagnosis establishes that it's a chronic condition, not a traumatic injury. But for most guys, you top out at about 10 to 60% with your direct connect disabilities. So that's when you need to be in the secondary condition lane. These are things that are blamed on or connected to your direct connections. So direct connections are usually things like tinnitus, your feet, your knees, your back, your shoulders. Mental health can be a direct connection. And then secondaries are things that are connected on a secondary basis to those direct connects. I know it seems confusing. For example, I'm service connected for migraines secondary to tinnitus. So I won tinnitus first, then came back and provided the evidence, the nexus needed to connect my headaches to my tinnitus on a secondary basis. So the nexus is the piece that's most often missing for most vets. Likely the VA won't build this piece for you. You've got to do the legwork here. There's 3 ways to get a nexus, and I covered that in other videos. But you could have an in-service event and a nexus and a diagnosis and still get denied the claim. Now, let me back up. You could have an in-service event and a nexus and still be denied the claim because you didn't bring the diagnosis. So all 3 have to exist simultaneously in order for the VA to award your claim. And it's all 3 or nothing. The VA doesn't award partial credit. And the burden of standard, the threshold here to gain what you need is not certainty. You don't need to be absolute. It needs to be at least as likely as not. So in other words, 50-50. There's a 50-50 or greater likelihood that your military service either caused or aggravated the condition you're claiming. Often this threshold is achievable, but you just got to know the target before you can hit it. So if you just learned something and need to get a nexus for some of these things that you've been diagnosed with, and that's the missing piece, hit me up below. I've got a link there. We can get started. Thanks for watching.